Hello, good evening, and welcome to the digital video news bulletin of datelinegujaratnews.com. So, what's dominating the world headlines, or what's a buzz across the, or what's the news buzz across the world or the world of news? Largely, the world headlines today remain dominated with the news of Silicon Valley Bank, and the impact has started now being felt across the world markets, right from Sydney to New York. The impact is being felt in the bond markets, in the money markets. The government is monitoring, the worldwide governments are monitoring the entire situation. The rating agencies worldwide have decided to recalibrate the ratings for the banks, especially the US banking system. However, amidst all this, what has happened is that the FDIC, that's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and the US Fed, they have assured the depositors that their money is safe and can be withdrawn with the bridge banking facilities which have been created with other banks. But be it anywhere in the world, the political blame game continues its discourse. So when Biden was asked, he actually refused to answer and he moved away. That video has gone viral across. But however, he has blamed this SVB collapse on Donald Trump. And when you x-ray the top-notch officials of SVB, there is something which could raise your eyebrows, because most of these officials were part of Lehman Brothers. So they have a kind of expertise in collapsing the financial markets or the financial world, or handling such collapsible situations in the financial world. But basically what's happening is that many analysts, many economists, and of course the governments and the financial experts across the world are monitoring this banking sector Armageddon, collapse of the banks one after another. The way, Bill Ackman has also said that he appreciates the government efforts, but basically has warned the banking collapse likely to happen in the US banking sector. So moving ahead, what's more being dominated is that after the statement came from Xi Jinping about that China must create a military Great Wall of Steel, the nuke-powered submarine deal under the aegis of AUKUS, in the assembly of US, UK and the Australian leaders or the head honchos of those states, that has kind of created a lot of ripples. And what is seen as the first impact is that China has curbed all restrictions on the Australian coal imports. So this is how it works. Once something works on that direction, because this new powered submarine deals for Australia are largely to keep China in control in the South Pacific Sea and the kind of activities which is happening over there. But the diplomacy seems to be at its peak time, all time. And what has happened is that immediately after these things have happened, there have been source-based media reports which claim that Xi Jinping is likely to visit Russia. And this comes at a time when even Joe Biden has invited Rishi Sunak to White House. And equally, this comes at a time when an important Quad member who just visited India, that's Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. Now there is a visit of Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who is scheduled to visit India. So I think the diplomacy at the world level is at high pitch, especially when the warmongering danger triggers across the world with Russia and China, who are seen as disruptors of peace, triggering danger, disorder and division across the world. That's what Rishi Sunak said while the submarine deal was being announced. Moving ahead, what's happening in the Asian subcontinent. Interestingly, in the Asian subcontinent, what has happened is that there has been tension which has surfaced between Imran supporters and the police in Lahore, because today there were all possibilities that Imran Khan was to be arrested in the Tosha Khana case of the gift corruption matter in Pakistan. In another development, what is happening is that after the earthquake which has happened in Turkey, and at least the death toll has reached 50,000, now it is seen that the state of head, Erdogan, could probably face some issues, because Turkey is likely to go on the polls in the month of May. And in the Middle East, or in the Southeast Asia, what's happening is that Indonesia's newly built planned capital city, Nusantara, which is being built in the jungle of Borneo. There have been questions raised that why should people move to this newly planned built city, because Jakarta will end basically once this city starts as a planned capital city. And in the Southeast Asia, in the oil and gas sector, enterprises which are active in oil and gas sector are eyeing the potential of floating production, storage and offloading opportunities which have been recently announced And this could be one major investment coming in Southeast Asia in the oil and gas sector. And equally, Japan and Canada, they have engaged in a dialogue for collaboration in EV, that is electric vehicle battery metal supply chain. So, I mean, the metal which is going to be mined or how it could be shipped across. So that kind of synergies are being worked out between Japan and Canada. And India is all poised to increase its dragon fruit, that is a kamalam, what is called in India the fruit, to increase its production across 50,000 acres from the present 3,000 acres. That's the release issued by the government. And what's happening in the Middle East? There is an interesting commentary which has appeared today in the Middle East media, is that the oil pivot prerogative has shifted to Asia from Europe, with most of the sanctions being laden on Russia. So the oil pricing mechanism, the entire oil negotiation things, that axis has shifted now from Europe to Asia. So this is some interesting development, relaxing oil prices probably, and the way we saw yesterday also with the results of Saudi Aramco, the kind of exploration they are looking ahead. So this could somewhere ease a kind of inflation, at least oil-led inflation or imported oil-led inflation for a country like India. And what has been more happening is that the new working hour schedule has been announced for the private sector during the month of Ramadan by Saudi Arabia. And of course, the marriage in the royal family of Jordan, that is dominating the news headlines in the Middle East region, if you scan across most of the newspapers and the media across over there. As we travel to the African subcontinent, interestingly in Zimbabwe, what has happened is that the government employee has refused to accept an increment of $50 per month. He has said this is peanuts, and he is not accepting that. So it's almost 400 rupees if you talk in terms of Indian rupee, a kind of increment of 400 rupees a month. So the situation everywhere, I think, in terms of salaries or increment remains the same even with the governments. Indian tech firm which is eyeing basically a business spy in Kenya. So you can read this all news on Dateline Gujarat. You can click the links, put the text on the search and see it on the search engines. And what is happening is that Kenyan authorities are equally eyeing a maize import deal with Zambia. But somewhere the small business operators are not happy with the kind of new tax plans in Kenya, and they are opposing that. And the concerns are being raised for an opinion piece which has appeared in the African media, that's about the presence of Russia's Wagner Group, which is reported to have close ties with the Kremlin in areas of security involving several mercenaries. That's a media report, and a lot of concern has been raised about that. In a shocking investigative piece which has been reported in the African media, is that it reveals the reality of the climate change and how it is impacting or how it is worsening the cholera crisis in Africa because of the floods and all that. The freshwater sources are not coming out the way they should, and this is worsening the cholera crisis basically in African subcontinent. Demonetization in India, of course not a similar one in Nigeria. Nigeria has announced new currency notes for 500 and 1000 denomination, but they have said equally the old notes would continue. So that's how the kind of new notes have been introduced into the system in Nigeria, and the Central Bank of Nigeria has said that they would even continue accepting the old notes, and the old notes would also remain into circulation. So something which a country like Nigeria has also done in a right manner, you can call it. Apart from the accused commentaries, renewable energy is the flavor in the European media today, and what we see in the news reports mainly is that Europe is to harness tidal energy, and they have inaugurated some floating wind assets, and Spain and Italy are taking different paths to address the clean energy priorities. So that's a kind of headlines in UK and Europe. And if you see in USA, what's happening in the American dream or the American subcontinent, Northern America, that's a part of Canada, US and Mexico, marine heat waves are sweeping the sea floors. That's a very alarming news in terms of climate change or environment or ecology. And Volkswagen's EV battery plant, manufacturing plant is likely to venture up in Canada. The new online law in Canada, which is also, a kind of buzzing news headline in Canada, and how this would impact the revenues of the online and social media platforms. That is also one of the concerns while we talk of the news from Canada, US and Mexico. And in Latin America, what has happened today, most of the news headlines are dominated by business synergies. A business handshake between Trinidad and Venezuela to dig out almost 4.2 trillion cubic feet natural gas, and the soya harvest by the Brazilian farmers. That is the news. It's dominating the headlines in the Latin American subcontinent. While we go to the Pacific Islands, what we see apart from the AUKUS deal and how Australia becomes an important geography, while it has to monitor probably with this new nuke-powered submarines to take care of the South Pacific region, South Asia Pacific region, and basically to keep China in control. That's of course the commentary. But apart from that, what's happening is that there is a news about a new hotel launch in Adelaide, and a diamond mining asset in Canada acquired by an Australian company, and of course Isuzu has launched new trucks in Australia. So that's dominating the Australian news headlines. Interestingly, in New Zealand, what's happening is that they are looking for conversion of water to fuel, and with that they are also looking to merge their spy agencies, keeping in view the overall the cost and everything. And what's happening over there more in areas of taxation is that the scooter and bikes have been included from the fringe benefit tax provisions in New Zealand, and that's the news headlines which is splashed across the New Zealand media. And if you see the frozen polars, what's happening in the frozen polars? Russia aims to export 100 million tons of LNG by 2030, for which they are constructing a new terminal which is likely to be operational in 2026 in Arctic region. So this is the news headlines. You can continue watching these news headlines on the website datelinegujaratnews.com. And when we talk of news from India or news from Gujarat today, the Reliance share has touched its low, and there have been new price targets which have been set. So there is an investment opportunity for investors into the stock market, the way Adani and Ambani shares have gone to some level. So this is seen as a buying opportunity by most of the analysts. And in Gujarat, what has happened is there was a controversy for the prasad which is being offered at the temple of Ambaji, which was a sweet, an Indian sweet called Monthal, and suddenly there was a break on that, and they said they would be offering a chikki, but finally the state government has agreed that the Monthal would also continue as that sweet dish would also continue as a prasad over there, which is a part of ages of tradition, and of course they would also provide chikki. So this is the news in nutshell across the world, across the India and in the state of Gujarat. Do be logged on datelinegujaratnews.com, because we will be sharing the world news commentaries, the India news commentaries and Gujarat news commentaries in our daily video news bulletin in this manner, and we will be addressing the important issues as and when it happens. Thank you for watching.